This right here, this is the SRI-2 mic preamp and USB interface from Fluid Audio. Now, I know there are a lot of USB mic preamps on the market, but the SRI-2 has some really standout features that you don't often find in this price range, and so it's just a stellar interface. And I only have one complaint about the SRI-2, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. By the way, Fluid Audio sent me this unit to review for free, but they're not paying me for the review, and I'm under no obligation to review it at all, or if I do, which I am doing, I don't have to say anything nice about it. But I'm going to say nice things about it because it's a nice interface. The SRI-2 is a 2-input interface, which I assume that's what the 2 is for, and it features 2 combo XLR jacks. And along with XLR cables, you can also plug in 1/4-inch cables that are either line level or low Z, like, for guitars and bass and stuff. Interestingly, Fluid Audio has made the decision to split up where they've put the cable connections. So the combo inputs are on the front, while the speaker outputs and USB connection are on the back. So from a desktop recording standpoint, this makes a whole lot of sense. You'll probably keep your monitors and computer plugged in all the time, but you're going to want easy access to the inputs on the front. While we're talking about how it's made, I should point out that this thing is pretty hefty, like really solid feeling. And that big knob on the front that's solid aluminum, and it feels really smooth when you turn it. But this weight serves a practical purpose. Now, some interfaces I've used, and I'm thinking of one in particular that is bright red. You know the one. Focusrite. Some are so light that they're easily dragged off your desk by the weight of the cables. Now, the SRI-2 is going to stay in one place. Also, you could probably drop kick this and it would be just fine. The unit, of course, has phantom power. You would expect that. Now, it is an all or nothing affair, though. For example, you can't assign phantom power to a condenser mic on one channel, but leave it turned off for a ribbon mic on the other. It's all or nothing. The interface features up to a 24-bit, 192 kilohertz sample rate, which is more than enough for anyone's needs. The SRI-2 will run on power supplied over the USB cable from your computer, so you don't have to plug it into a power supply. However, if you're using this in a mobile situation, like plugged into your phone, then that's not going to work. But fortunately, Fluid Audio has added an optional power supply input when you can't use USB power. The mic preamps on this have plenty of gain. I'm using a dynamic microphone here with a sensitivity of minus 50 dB, and the preamp handles it just fine. No booster needed. In fact, I'm looking at my input gain knob here, and it's like just over 50%. Now, when you're dealing with a 2-input device, you have a little issue to deal with as a manufacturer and as a user too. Like sometimes you're inputting a stereo signal and you want your audio pans, left and right. Like if you've got 2 mics on an acoustic guitar, for example. Other times you might have 2 mono signals like a guitar and voice, and you don't want those panned. Fluid Audio has handled this very elegantly by adding a sum button. By default, the 2 inputs are panned left and right to your speakers or headphones, but you hit that sum button and they're sent to both channels. In other words, mono, like right down the middle. But this button doesn't affect the signal going to USB. Those are always going to be the channels 1 and 2, so that sum button isn't going to mess up your recording. That's pretty smart. So Fluid Audio gets a big thumbs up on the sum button. And speaking of thumbs up, if you're liking this video so far, would you please hit that thumbs up button down below? That will help this video get seen by more people. Thanks. Another nice touch on the SRI-2 is how Fluid Audio has handled the input monitoring. Sometimes you want to hear the input live in your monitors or headphones while you're, playing back computer audio as well. Other times, you might only want to hear the computer playback and not hear your microphone. Now, some companies are a little lazy and just have a button to turn on input monitoring, but Fluid has a knob, so you can actually dial in the exact level of input versus playback. For the home studio user, this is a little feature that's going to make you really happy. Now, Fluid Audio, the company, got their start by making studio monitors, so it makes total sense that they've got not 2, but 4 outputs on this interface. You can have 2 sets of speakers hooked up to the SRI-2 and switch back and forth between them. This is so important for making sure your final mix works in different situations. I don't see this feature, the dual speaker switching, on any other interfaces in this price range. So if you're concerned about getting your mixes just right, this is a must-have feature. So what's my one complaint? Well, it's the LED metering. I'm glad they have a 6-segment meter rather than those annoying LED rings that change color depending on your gain. There's no way to dial in your levels with color changes. So having the precision of a proper meter is great. However, the green LEDs, they're actually really faint. And under the studio lights, I can barely see them. Now, the yellow and red LEDs, which I could argue are probably the most important ones because they show clipping, well, those are bright. But the green ones, they're a little tough to see. The SRI-2 lists for $200, but I've seen it priced at about $150 pretty frequently. That makes it very competitive with other 2-input units, kind of like a steal, really. But the real question is, how much does it cost right now? Well, one way to find out is to use the affiliate link I put in the video notes. So the LED thing isn't a deal killer for me. And, to be honest, I'm a big fan of this interface. It's not complicated, but it's doing all the right things in all the right ways. And I suspect you'll see it on my desk again in the future. Okay, that's the end of the video.